Hey guys, thank you so much for stopping by the garden today. We're going to go over a little video on just general gardening maintenance because I think it's really important to trim all your berries right before spring starts. So this is my sunshine blue blueberry bush, and it's a dwarf variety. You can see all that new growth starting to push out on her. She's got tons of berries starting to grow on her leaf tips, and every leaf point is starting to get berries on it. So all those leaves are starting to grow because we trim these branches back in the beginning of spring. So early spring, when you're just getting out of the winter climates and your weather's starting to warm up a bit into like the 50s, 40s even, you want to go ahead and trim your blueberry bush and berries because it really encourages this growth to come about. Now I also fed with my fish fertilizer. I put some fresh blood meal in the soil. I transplanted this, and I put soil acidifier in here, which brings that soil pH down, and I put crushed up eggshells in there for now. We're going to add some bone meal if we can get some online because we can't really go out to the store right now, but we're going to try to get that bone meal because that really encourages a lot of these blooms and blossoms to not get blossom end rot. That gives you the potassium and the calcium you need. Now I'm getting the calcium from those crushed up eggshells I put in there. I kind of emulsified them and powdered them up, in a blender, and then just put them in the soil. I tilled them up in the soil the first couple of inches there. Have some marigolds planted on the side of it, and I just trimmed those branches down because it really encourages that growth to come about. So you don't want to hack your whole blueberry bush down, and I get rid of any cross branches. So I have one in here that I saved and I left on here so we can go ahead and propagate. I never propagated my berry bush, but my blueberry bush, but we propagated our blackberry, which I'll go ahead and show you because all the branches we trimmed off, they weren't dead. These branches aren't dead. They might look it because they lose all their leaves in the winter, but they are not dead. So we're going to go ahead and try to propagate this. I've never tried to propagate blueberry before. We're going to peel off all the bottom stems, cut a little bit of a stem, so we have about a 4-inch cutting, and then we're going to go ahead and root it in some soil. We're going to put some rooting gel on it, and we're going to root it in some soil. This blackberry right here is starting to grow as well because we cut off all the old canes and new canes are starting to pop up. Well, we didn't cut off all the old canes. We cut off most of them. This one still has a lot of new growth on it. So all the canes that had growth on it and were showing signs of growth, like you see here, we have new growth and berries popping out of every point of this berry bush, this blackberry here. So we did good. We just trimmed those branches half down because, blackberries twine and twine and twine, and they trail out with those big branches. So I just cut those branches halfway back and cut a few of them out that were dead. You'll kind of notice what dead canes look like. They're kind of crispy. And these new canes are starting to pop out. We have a couple of new canes, like 3 or 4 new canes popping out. We have a flower hiding right behind here, as you can see. So it pops out new growth and flowers at every point. You can see we got a berry that just started to pollinate right there. It's starting to produce. And we have another little flower starting right there. You can see it's starting to open. We have more growth right here. So that's why that trimming is important in that early spring for your berries. Now I added soil acidifier in all my berry plants, and I put fresh potting soil, a little bit of compost in there, and some blood meal. We're going to get some bone meal soon if we can. We're going to add that in there as well because they are blooming and they need that potassium. They need a lot of good potassium. I do have other nutrients with high potassium in it that I'll show you guys. They're chemical nutrients, which I'll have to use if I can't get the bone meal at the store, but we'll go ahead and use that if we need to, and I'll do a separate video for that on for you guys. But you can see we have new growth coming out of the bottom here, new raspberry canes. This is my raspberry bush, which red raspberries do not do well here in Central Florida. We had berries popping out, but then we had dropped down to climates in the 40s and 30s a couple of weeks to a month ago, and now we're just in the 90s, so it's kind of doesn't know what to do right now. We're just going to show you my little berries right here that we trimmed and propagated. This is one of them, which I have my soil pH tester in there, my moisture meter in. You can see the new growth on the tip right there. We have a lot of new growth starting in the middle there as well. Let's go to our other berry bush, which is right here. You can see this one has a lot of new branches coming out of it, which is really cool. We have one right here. You can see one right there. And that's just regular garden maintenance by trimming up your plants because it really encourages that new growth to come about. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. I hope you really enjoyed this video on berries. I hope you can just grow some of your own. They're really tasty, and once you grow these berries of your own and pick them and eat them, you will never want to go back to the grocery store ever. You can see a lot of that new growth starting to come about on there. Sorry that camera was a little wobbly for you. You can see she's starting to get all new growth all in her leaf node. So every leaf node here is going to start pushing out growth, just like this one. See, we have new growth here and we're getting a new one right here. They're going to push out flowers and foliage. So these are all going to become new long canes, and you'll see, I'll come back and do another video for you when we start getting those. One thing I like to do when my berries are starting to grow is cut the branch. If I notice that one branch is starting to stall out, what I'll do is just go at the very tip of it and I'll cut that tip off, because what's going to happen is that's going to force a bunch of new growths to start growing out of all those leaf nodes a lot faster. If your plants kind of stall out your berries, that's one way you can definitely do that to get them to rock out and get them jamming again. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. I hope you really enjoyed this video. We'll just take a look at some other things growing in the garden while we're out here as well. If you need any help on growing berries, let me know. I'm not an expert yet at them, but I really like to grow them, and I get berries and they're really good. So if you need any help on that, I'd love to help you try to grow some berries of your own. They're really good to grow in a small space, especially in containers. These are my little jelly bean tomatoes. We have eggplants back there. We have another eggplant on the side right here with some sunflowers on the right. We have some carrots that we're starting to pick as they come about and pop up out of that soil. They're almost all ready to be picked. We have some arugula and some spinach growing back there. Some cucumbers started, some flowers started. We have our broccoli starting to head, so this I have to be careful with, because this 90-degree weather, this broccoli's not supposed to be getting. This broccoli was growing since the winter, and we kind of skipped spring. And I thought we were going to have a little bit of a spring, but we didn't. So this is starting to head, and I hope it's not heading too early. I don't think it is, because it looks pretty good, but I hope it doesn't go to seed. I hope it broccoli's out for me. And this little broccoli stalk right here, you can see it's starting to grow in the middle. I hope that doesn't start burning, because that's kind of what happens to us here in Florida when we get into the hotter climates. If I'm growing cool weather vegetables and that heat starts kicking in, my cool weather stuff will start really getting damaged. We have Silver Queen hybrid corn starting to pop, which that's really hard for me. I've planted like 20 seeds in there and only a couple have popped so far. So I have to be patient with that, because usually I can get seeds to sprout really quickly in a couple of days, and those are taking forever. It's been like a week and I'm still waiting for those to sprout. That's cucumber. We're growing cantaloupe too on the side of the house. And then we went over these. That's some more cucumber. I have to cut one of those out, because only one of those guys are going to come out and be planted. This is all of the foliage I've cut off of my green beans, because getting into the hotter climates, we're getting a lot of aphid action and fungus action as well. So I like to keep my plants really, thinned out with a lot of good airflow, as you can see, because if they're really bushy and clumped together and too close together, what can tend to happen is a lot of pests and stuff like to hide in here, and also diseases, and I don't want that to happen to you guys. You can see this is aphid damage. If you guys see like this white stuff, you can, oops, sorry, I keep bumping the camera. I'm horrible with this camera. You can see that white stuff. See that? Those white speckles are aphid damage. So we know we have some aphids in here, and we've been treating with neem oil like crazy. But the neem oil I have is 70%, and the 70% does not work that well. The 100% organic cold pressed neem oil works a lot better for me by the Dynagrow brand. You can see we have flowers still coming out on our green beans. We've harvested about twice off of these already and have eaten quite a bit of green beans, but you can see thinning them out, that encourages new growth to come about. So any dead branches, any branches with like really yellow growth on it, usually the bottom branches I cut, or anything that looks kind of yucky. You know, a bird kind of pooped on that one, but that's not damaged. So I'll leave that. And then you know, these look kind of bad. These are kind of too clumped in here, and then I'm getting caterpillars to eat my leaves as well. So we're just going to go ahead, trim this off, and I trim off the entire branch of my my leaves for my any plant really. You don't want to leave a stem on your plant, because that kind of encourages rot to set in. See this? This is a dead branch, so that's going to end up creating mold and pests and all kinds of diseases up in here. If I leave that on there, it's going to end up rotting on this stem and on this plant, and then eventually this plant can rot from this one leaf that wasn't plucked off. So that's why I like to thin my plants out, and it also encourages that new growth to come about. Nice airflow through the leaves. You want every leaf of your plants to have kind of airflow through them, because then, especially here in Central Florida, it just creates pests and diseases to come about. These are my pole beans starting to trail. These are my sugar snaps, which are going bananas. I'm gonna start pinching off the tops because they're getting really big, which these sugar snaps are gonna start growing to about 6 feet. So I'm just going to take their tops. Let's wait for that truck to go by. I'm going to take their tops and I'm going to pinch off each top like this, because what's going to happen is that's going to encourage all new growth to come about in each stem, each leaf point of this little pea plant right here, these sugar snap peas. It'll encourage all those peas to branch out and become a lot bigger for me. And I kind of want a full pea trellis over here. You can see we have a lot of peas growing, and I put a couple more green beans. We have those poles going up, so we can just trellis them all up there. I'll probably have to add some string and some more poles in there if they get too out of control. But that's it, you guys. That's all I really wanted to go over. It's just really important to maintain your garden and take off any dead leaves, check on what's going on, see how your plants are growing. These are peppers. You know, the more you check your garden out and the more you pay attention to them, the more you're going to learn. And gardening is a constant learning process. And I'm always here for you guys. If you need any help at all on anything I'm ever showing you, or need an explanation, a detailed explanation on anything, just let me know. And I'd love to help you in any way I can. These are my little Roma tomatoes. I just wanted to show you guys these before we left, because these are starting to push out flowers. And I also gave these my fish fertilizer, that blood meal in the soil, and also those crushed up eggshells, which next time I boil some eggshells, I'm going to show you guys how to do that. You never want to put raw eggshells in your containers, because that creates salmonella problems and can really harm you and just, you know, create bacteria in that plant. So I'm going to show you guys how I do that, and thank you so much for watching. And I'll also show you, I'll come back and do another video on how I spray my foliage with magnesium Epsom salt to get them really green looking. It gives them the nutrients they need on their foliage, and it really helps them to take off and give them that green pop color. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. I hope you really enjoyed this video.